Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Guys, through these courts is held annually a college showdown called Battle in the Bay Classic. Stay tuned for more. So on these courts in San Francisco at the California Tennis Club, all the colleges listed right here, with the men's and the women's coming into the bay to duke it out. We got a 64-person draw on the men's side, including a back draw. We got a 32-person women's draw with also a back draw, as well as doubles. So as you can see, represented very well across the United States. So let's go take a look at some of the past winners over here. This is our wall of champions. Let's move over to men's singles here. With our first year, Mr. Andrew Kells, when it was only a men's tournament and a small 32-person draw. Second year, Ray Sarmiento, who's still on the tour today. Emilio Gomez, Eric Johnson, Andre Goranson, who is still on tour today, in doubles mostly, I think. And then we got some of the others. We got Bellamy, Montgomery, Rubikoff, and then look, my man Brandon Holt won it in the last one in 19. He is on tour now. Some of the doubles, as you can see here, some of them are still on tour. And Brandon Holt actually won both the doubles and that singles in 19. We started the women's in 15 with USF winning with Andrea Ka. And then Lauren backed it up from Arizona in 16. Rebecca Weissman, Danielle Wilson. And then in 19, it was Clara Kosen. And then we also had the doubles draw here. Looks like we got a double winner with Andrea and Lauren. And then in 17 too with Weissman. 18, that streak ended in 17. And then in 19, we had Carolyn and Chandler from Wake Forest winning the doubles part. So, take a look at the courts. All the courts are ready for battle. So, I'm going to go over with Coach Pablo and Coach Steven Jackson to talk about the history of this tournament and show you some on-the-court highlights that we have. Stay tuned. So I have special guests, Coach Steve Jackson and Coach Pablo Perez de Almeida. These are the founders of that tournament. Guys, welcome.
Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Harry.
Glad to be here.
Welcome, welcome. Man, I'm so excited to learn about this. I've been a part of this for the 12, 13 years that it's been around, but I've never heard of the nuts and bolts and how it got started and how, what the concept was. So the mastermind, Steve, did Tiburon Challengers and a bunch of other conceptual things that actually came to fruition, tournaments. So Mastermind Steve is the one that came up with Battle in the Bay. So my first question for Steve, how did this come about?
Well, I worked in Tiburon for 10 years and started a challenger there and did the professional side of tennis. And then in 2007, we did what's called the Alumni Legends Cup, which was an interesting concept. We took 4 collegiate teams, Cal and Stanford from the north, and UCLA and USC from the south. And we created teams based on age groups. So we had former players representing particular age groups. So we had 50s, a player in their 50s, a player in the 40s, player in the 35s, 30s, and 20s, which was very interesting because it brought these generational college players that didn't necessarily ever even see each other or know each other, but had heard about each other, seen their records, seen their photos, and now all of a sudden they're on their team and they have a name on their back. And I thought that was a really neat concept. It went over very well. The players loved it. So from a player standpoint, a fan standpoint, it went really well. From a business standpoint, not so well. There were a lot of expenses and a lot of things that we had to incur in order to make that event happen. And so when I moved to San Francisco and Pablo was the head coach at USF, I really loved the collegiate idea. And so I sat down with Pablo and Peter Bartlett at USF and said, let's do a college tournament, but let's not just do a normal college tournament where you give them a t-shirt and a slice of cold pizza and no one's out there watching. Let's make it like a pro tournament. Let's give these collegiate athletes the feeling of being professionals and put on a first-rate tournament and also create a pathway from junior tennis to collegiate tennis to eventually professional tennis. And having 2 unbelievable coaches to work with, and Pablo and I are partners with high performance junior players who are nationally ranked, we had this great pathway and this synergy between all of us. And I think that's how it came about. We just started small and went from there.
Yeah, the first year was a draw of 16, and it was basically Battle of the Bay. So it was just who's going to be the best champion of the Bay. You know, all the teams of the Bay Area, send your best players. We'll house you. We'll treat you like pros. We'll have ball kids. We'll fundraise, all this excitement, and the club backed it. And then we had an amazing tournament. It was small. And we felt like, wow, we did it. And that was great for Peter and myself on the coaching side of things. We really wanted our players to play against the best players. And it's always hard as USF or St. Mary's. When you're in the Bay Area, you think of Cal and Stanford. You don't really think of anybody else. So for us to have our guys and girls playing against the best players, that's always the big buy-in for us. And how do we make that happen? So it was, let's build off of that. And then after that year being such a success, we had a lot of coaches talk about it to other coaches. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting all these messages from coaches saying, hey, how do we get in that tournament? I heard it's amazing. How do we get in that tournament? And then we had to kind of get back to our thoughts and think of what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
And the next phase was North and South.
Yeah. Sort of a collegiate Mays Cup was kind of our both of us had coached Mays Cup. Completely unsuccessful and very successful Mays Cup coach.
Luckily.
No luck.
The team.
No luck
Only
there.
because the team.
No. It was a great coach. Anyway, we both have a passion for that event, which is the best juniors in Northern California versus the best Southern California juniors. And so we said, well, let's do that collegiately. So we reached out to USC and San Diego and UCLA and all the schools down south. Yeah. And got buy-in from those coaches, and then we had a Northern and a Southern California draw.
And that was amazing because then the club really, I thought, that year really bought in, housed all the players, and it was kind of a test. Okay, does the membership like this? Does the club like this? How is this going to go? Because that's a lot more players. It was a draw of 32 then, and just a lot of people had to pitch in. A lot of people had to support it. And then boom, that went even better. Then all those coaches tell all their friends, and then now we're getting Georgia and Wake Forest and all these other teams that want to come. And then we were like, okay, can we handle this? And then Steve still was able to have these connections with these challengers that he had directed in the past. And then we thought, okay, well, let's really make this a pathway for the juniors, to the college players, to the pros, and let's fundraise more dollars to try to get wild cards for the players. And then that's when it really took off. That's when the tournament became a nationwide success. And the ITA, the USTA, nobody could believe it, because it was something that we had been talking to the USTA about and the ITA about, like, hey, we're going to do this. Do you want to jump on and support it? And they all wanted to support it, but I don't think they thought we could pull it off. So they weren't really willing to give us the wild cards or kind of support us on the back end. So we said, okay, we're going to do it on our own. And we ended up being able to do it, which was amazing. Yeah.
Well, that's an amazing story. I mean, I was a part of this the whole time. Again, I wasn't inside the doors though. I remember the first one we ever did. And you're telling me it was a draw of 16?
Yeah.
In my head, it was at least 32.
Yeah.
Because it felt like it was so much work.
Yeah.
It was.
And then the second year, when you invited USC, that was Ray Sarmiento's year, right? Yeah. That felt like we kind of eased into 32, which felt a little more comfortable, a little more of a grander scale, kind of a super, real tournament at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get it. I get what we're trying to do.
We didn't establish wild cards with Tiburon for several years until we were able to get the tournament to be nationwide. Once we had Georgia and Wake Forest and those schools, Texas, TCU, then the challenger was like, okay, this is a really broad spectrum of players and talent all over the country in college. So we feel like, you guys are worthy of a wild card. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know what a wild card is or a challenger, so a challenger is actually a money tournament. And a wild card into that money tournament means what? You make money. And you possibly get a point if you can win a round or two. So that's pretty huge for a college person, a college kid.
I mean, the reality is to make it into the challenger level, which is a professional level, it's like the AAA of baseball. It's about a 2-year grind on the tour to get started. So if you're a senior in college and you get a wild card, you've just skipped 2 years of expenses, travel, tough matches, tough countries to travel to, and all those conditions. And if you can get right into a challenger and get a bunch of wins right away, you've just leapfrogged over everybody for a couple of years. So it's a huge opportunity for someone who wants to play professional tennis. I mean, they have to win. We all know tennis is a merit-based sport, which is what we love about it. But it's an opportunity for you to go and win, and that's saying a lot if you're a senior in tennis.
Yeah.
Right.
And
play with the big boys early.
Yeah. The coaches absolutely love it. I mean, they can't believe it. They recruit their players based on our tournament. A lot of them, they're like, Pablo, I told my guys when they were, coming from this country in Europe or South America, hey, if you come play for us, we're going to take you to Battle on the Bay. You win that tournament and you're going to get a wild card into a main draw of a challenger. It's a huge recruiting tool. And they're like, holy smokes, I've been grinding the last couple of years futures and I got a couple points. But if I win one round in the main draw of a $100,000 challenger, that's going to take me from, 1,000 in the world to 700 in the world in one match.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we've had, the number one doubles team from Cal was, Lacotte and Goranson. They actually made it to the finals of the Tiburon Challenger one year, thanks to our wild card. And that totally changed their whole, they weren't even planning on going pro. And then they get to the finals of that tournament and they're like, oh yeah, we're going pro.
Yeah.
Because now we're, almost 300 in the world off of one tournament. It was just a huge change in the evolution of the tournament, and the quality of player. So now every coach that sends their player knows they have to send their best player. They can't send anybody else.
Gordonson's still a pro right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably because of that he's still a pro right now.
Huge. Yeah, and he actually came back to the city, and now he's a member of the Cal Club, which is where it all started for him. And you know, he just tells me to this day it's the best tournament he ever played in college. He had choices to go play other tournaments after he won our tournament. He came back 3 times. He's like, I'm just playing this tournament. I don't even want to play anything else. This is it.
And he just played the U.S. Open, so he's in the top 100 right now.
Great. He's doing great. So, you know, it's turned into a really amazing pride for a lot of players that have played it and not won it, and then they want to come back. And even though they're already world ranked and they're already top in college, it's just a great title to have.
So we went from, and that's great. I watch Brandon Holt. I love his style. We went from 13 years ago, 16-person draw, to today, where we had 64 on the men's side, 32 on now a women's side, and this is 2021. What do you guys foresee 2022 and forward with the tournament?
It's a good question. I mean, we've focused a lot on the women's side. We were able to get 2 wild cards this year for the women, which brought some of the best players in the country in college tennis on the women's side. In fact, the girl who won the tournament this year, the battle, is just a recent Wimbledon junior champion in doubles, semifinalist in Australian Open. She just turned 18 during our tournament. I think she has a bright future on the WTA. So we're excited to see how she does with her wild card. And I think from our standpoint, we want to continue that pathway, continue making relationships and headway into that. We're working really hard with our partners to try to create a green, socially conscious, climate changed awareness tournament, and dealing with young athletes and people who are going to go on into the world and make those changes. We want them to realize that we're also doing our part in that.
And just to point out the challengers, you know, we had wild cards for the men as well. Unfortunately, the Tiburon Challenger and the Fairfield Challenger both got canceled. So that wasn't able to happen this year. But the women's challengers, the Berkeley Challenger, that's going to go on next week. And that's really going to be some really high level women that are going to be playing there. The draw is mostly top 100 players of the WTA right now. We also have the Rancho Santa Fe Women's Challenger that I just got the players list of that, and it's pretty much all top 100 players. And so those 2 challenges are going to happen in the next couple weeks. So we want to promote those challenges as much as possible.
Exactly. Your listeners should go.
Yeah, and then Princeville Capital came in and sponsored our tournament through a junior player that Steve coaches and that's in our program. And they really got behind the green messaging, along with Tomcat Foundation and members of the club. So that's going to be a real big one for us next year. We're talking to Wilson about using, like you tested it out, the Trinity Ball. You helped us with that. So we're just looking at all different ways we can make this a good example tournament for the world, and we can message that across the world.
Now, what else do you guys see for Battle? Like, where else is there to grow?
I mean, so we talk about this all the time, and I think we definitely want to continue to focus on the best players of the nation coming in, building our relationships with the ITA and college to make this tournament a nationwide powerhouse like it is already. But I think, like Steve's saying, it's messaging, it's broadening kind of the level of college tennis and celebrating that and letting people know that these are our future champions.
On Pablo's point, one of the things that we want to do is try to just from an awareness piece is to work with potentially getting our tournament broadcast in on Tennis Channel, try to get some more exposure in the country on television, and also just continue to work on our technology piece, our scoreboards, our live streaming, things of that nature that, we focus so hard on the players and the experience for them. And I think we have that dialed in. Now now we can focus more on the fan experience, and bringing that to other people in the country. So it's not just a local thing, but we can broaden it.
I think, yeah, that's been the biggest thing. We tried to bring that to 2 years ago with COVID happening. We had to cancel that year.
Yeah.
But we were in talks with Tennis Channel, and we've just been in talks with different companies that could, mic every court, scoreboards on every court, stream every court, and really bring up that back end professionalism.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like you've really broadcasted the club in the best light, but also the special players and programs and coaches and the personalities that you see come through the club for that weekend.
Yeah.
And it really just takes it to the top level.
I know that we came a long way since 13 years ago. I know that unfortunately this year we were not open to the public, unlike years past because of COVID and the amount of people who would have walked through the doors. But these guys are geniuses. They brought in cameras so that they can literally show every court for every match. So, but I love that you guys are willing to invest in the tournament. You're willing to see the future in the tournament. And I wish you guys, luck and success, and hopefully, it just gets bigger and better, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thanks.
To you guys.
And just so you know, you guys are a big part of it. I mean, you've always been a part of it in terms of helping us in the the getting things ready pre-tournament, and then obviously you're the master stringer and help every player that comes through, and they just drop off like all their stuff, and you have to doctor everything up. So that's a huge relief to us.
Huge.
So,
it's huge. You guys, I think that's the back end of the tournament is massive. Now it's all about you guys. We build it together and we just keep going. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for all the help,
guys. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. It's been a great ride, guys. I hope we do it
going.
for 50 more years.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So before we finish up, there is a giving aspect of the tournament, and it is Harper for Kids, ran by Tim and Peanut Harper. Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, it's been a big part of the community of tennis, and not only tennis, but also multiple sports. When I was at USF, our team would go visit a bunch of schools in the city, in the Bay Area. We were in Oakland and all over San Francisco. And the Harper for Kids Foundation takes the pyramid of success that's been designed by the legendary coach John Wooden, and Peanut put together a kids version of this pyramid of success and made a kids book with the legendary coach before he passed. And this book is their foundation for everything. And what we do is we go in and we talk about the blocks, the blocks of success. And we go in with our team. It could be our men's or women's tennis team, or it could be the soccer team. It could be the volleyball team. USF has partnered. Now Cal is on board. Stanford's on board. And they get these great athletes involved in the classroom. Now it's by Zoom with COVID, but now it's across the nation. A lot of Olympic medal winners have jumped on board to help them out. Lindsay Davenport was a real big early adopter, Billie Jean King, and they have some incredible legends now really helping them bring just the positive little blocks, the simplest little blocks. Mine's enthusiasm. I love bringing the energy, having fun. Everybody can grab a block and make that part of their day, what they're focused on. And then with our tournament, they've been our fiscal sponsor now for multiple years, and all of our donations go through them. So if you'd like to donate to Harper for Kids Foundation, and you can earmark it for Battle in the Bay, that's awesome. We just try to help them out as much as possible. We've known them forever. Peanut's a longtime tennis champion of San Francisco, and Tim's just an unbelievable tennis lover, artist, and everything, and they do a great job.
Yeah. So I want to thank Pablo.
Thank you.
I want to thank Coach Steve for telling us what Battle is all about, and kind of even educating me as to you know, how it actually got started and where we are today with it.
Hopefully you guys can tune in to Battle next fall in September. We'll have better live streaming, we'll have better scoring, and we'll have it really easy to watch.
Yeah.
Or if you want to make a trip out to San Francisco, you can watch it live, hopefully.
Yeah, even
That's
better.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Rick.
Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.